Hey guys, how's it going? Brian from Brian Boas here. Today I want to share with you some highly recommended boa keeping supplies that I've used for quite a while and been really happy with. From temperature and humidity control to cage accessories to books with priceless knowledge, all of these items make boa keeping a lot more enjoyable and productive, and I can't imagine doing it without them. I've put some links in the description down below, so if you're interested in any of these items, you can go to Amazon and learn more about them and purchase them if you like. So the first item I highly recommend is this handheld infrared thermometer temperature gun. And basically you just point it at the target, it's got a little red LED, and it tells you the temperature, and it's really wonderful for checking temperatures in your boa's cages. So I'm using this every day. Every time I open a boa's cage, I check its hotspot, I check the cool end, and I check the boa itself, just to make sure they're all within my desired temperature range. It's also great for checking pregnant females. You can check them, see what they're reading at, and typically gravid females will read in the upper 80s, around 88 degrees, and it's a good sign that they're gravid. So the brand of this is Tech City, but it's a really great item if you don't have one of these already. The next item I've been really happy with is this little cool mist humidifier, and this particular model emits this cool mist of humidity. It's actually got 3 separate settings, so there's a low, a medium, and a high setting. The high setting, the water in the tank lasts for about 12 hours. I believe this is something like 4 liters, the tank size, and it's the Levoit brand. But I've been really happy with this. I run this thing all day, every day, and it's held up really well over the last couple of years. In the past, I've tried these cheap humidifiers from the drugstore that are hot and they emit this like really hot mist, but they last about a week and then they kind of crap out and don't work anymore. But this device has performed really well for me. It's also very reasonably priced. So if you're looking for a nice humidifier for your snake room, I would recommend this one. Now I'm going to go over some of my recommended heating solutions, particularly for rack systems for boas. And so the first is FlexWatt heat tape. And so this is a really good solution because it allows you to custom cut the sizes that you want for your particular need. And it comes in a 6-inch wide width, which is good for baby boa racks, as well as an 11-inch wide width, which I use for my larger boa racks. And you can cut it in any length that you want. It does require you to attach your own electric cords, and I did a video a little while ago about how I set this up, so check that out if you're interested. But it's a really versatile and flexible solution for heating your boa racks. Also works pretty good for some cages. If you have really large cages and you have a cool temperature in the background, you might want to look into something like an infrared heat emitter. So the other solution of heat mat that I highly recommend are these Ultratherm heat mats. And these are basically the same technology as the FlexWatt, but they're encased in this thick plastic and they're a lot more durable, and they're already wired up. So if you're not really handy with electricity, I recommend you get something like this Ultratherm heat mat. These are made in Scotland and they're the most durable heat mat that I've seen on the market. So this is an 11 by 23 inch size. I think there's an 11 by 17 inch size. Those are really good for boas. They come in all different sizes. So the Ultratherm heat mat. And then finally, one of the things that is really good for attaching these in place is aluminum foil tape. And I've tried using alder tapes, masking tape, painter's tape. They don't really work really well for keeping these heat mats attached to your rack or cage. But this aluminum foil tape works really well for attaching the heat mat in place and keeping it in place permanently. A good reptile thermostat is an absolutely essential piece of equipment for boa keeping and breeding. And my go-to thermostat of choice is the Herpstat 6. So the Herpstat 6 has 6 temperature probes and can control the temperature of 6 separate devices simultaneously. So it's great for rack systems and for multi-level cages. The Herpstats come in models with between 1 and 6 probes. There's also a Thermostat 2 and a Thermostat 4. With the Thermostat 6, I can have the temperature be dropped at night and then return to normal during the day. So it's a great tool for use in cycling boas to get them ready for breeding. And it can also control lighting and humidity. So really a powerful thermostat. A couple substrates that I use and recommend are aspen and coconut husk bedding. So aspen is probably my go-to substrate for the majority of my boas, and it's convenient because it's relatively inexpensive. It has a nice smell, not too powerful. It's not going to harm your snakes like pine or cedar. And these snakes feel comfortable sitting on top of it. It gives them a sense of security. Aspen holds humidity relatively well. You can spray it down, and usually I'll spray it down a couple times a week to keep it moist. In some cases I have had animals that the aspen is not quite humid enough, and that's why I tried this coconut husk bedding. So the coconut husk bedding comes in this compressed block, and you soak it in water and it expands to several fold its volume. And then the bedding actually looks like this. So these little pieces of coconut husk fiber, and they're kind of spongy, so they hold the moisture really well. So if you need a really high humidity solution, this coconut husk bedding is what I would go for. And it's called Pro Coco is the brand. Coconut husk bedding. One of my favorite cage accessories for boas is cork bark, and this comes from the cork oak. And what's nice about it is it's really lightweight, so it's not gonna collapse and injure your boa. And it's also got this really nice rough texture, so the boas can get on top of it and they feel really safe and secure wrapping around this stuff. Boas have a need for this tactile sense, and they like a nice rough surface. You may have noticed if you use like newspaper or cardboard box or something, they don't feel secure on top of that. The cork bark comes in both these tubes as well as halves like this. So this is good both for the boa to sit on as well as for the boa to hide in. And I try to have cork bark in every one of my boa's cages. An essential item in boa keeping is a good all-purpose disinfectant for use in cleaning cages. And the one that I use is chlorhexidine. And so this stuff is really good for using to clean your cages. It can also be used for some medical applications like mouth rot, as well as some skin abrasions in other animals like dogs and cats. It's got a multitude of different veterinary uses, not just reptiles. And so as a general cleaning solution, I dilute the concentrate about 50-fold in water in one of these spray bottles, and I spray down my cages with this when I'm cleaning them. So this gallon jug has lasted me for several years. You can see I'm not even half done with it. So it's really reasonable. You buy a gallon jug and it lasts for many years. So chlorhexidine, highly recommended. The most common time that people are bitten by their pet boa is during feeding. So it's imperative you have some kind of a tool that's going to put some distance between your hand and the food item. And I've seen people using expensive tongs or tweezers or other devices like that. But I found that this inexpensive little grabber tool works great for offering food to snakes. And so there's about 2.5 feet between the snake's mouth and your hand to keep you nice and safe. A decent camera so you can take great photos of your boa is another highly recommended item. And there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of great cameras out there. But I would recommend that you pick a model that allows you to remove the lenses and allows you to control the settings like the f-stop and the shutter speed. And so you probably want to look for a digital SLR or a mirrorless design. And again, there's numerous great cameras out there. I'll just say that I am partial to Canon, and my go-to camera of choice for photographing snakes as well as shooting videos is the Canon 7D. And now while this camera is about 10 years old, it still works great. And for somebody that's on a lower budget and can't afford thousands of dollars for a new camera, I would highly recommend that you look into the 7D. And the last, but certainly not the least type of items I'm going to recommend are great books on boas. And so the first is the Complete Boa Constrictor by Vin Russo. And so this is a great comprehensive overview of the different types of boas out there, both the locality boas and the morph boas. It's got lots of great pictures. He also covers a lot of topics about the husbandry of boas. This is actually the first edition. This went out of print for a few years, and it was listed on eBay and Amazon for as high as $400. So you can see how valuable this book was. Fortunately, Vin came out with a new edition last year that you can pick up. So I would highly recommend that you get the updated version of the Complete Boa Constrictor. The second highly recommended boa book is The Reproductive Husbandry of Pythons and Boas by Ross and Marzak. And while this book is about 30 years old, it's still a one-of-a-kind book, and it has information that's simply not available in other sources. This is a little more expensive now because it's out of print, but if you really want the comprehensive Bible on breeding boas, get a copy of The Reproductive Husbandry of Pythons and Boas. Another older book that's both a great read as well as full of valuable snake keeping knowledge is Snakes, the Keeper and the Kept by Carl Caulfield. Carl Caulfield was the curator of reptiles at the Staten Island Zoo for many years in the middle of the 20th century. And so this book is great because it has chapters devoted to specific types of snakes, including a chapter on boas. And it has a number of chapters about Carl Caulfield's adventures collecting snakes in the field. And it's superbly well written. It's very engrossing. When he's giving the narratives of his trips, you feel as though you're actually there with him. It's also great because it gives you kind of perspective on how snake keeping was in the middle of the 20th century, from about the 1930s to the late 60s. So highly recommended, Snakes, the Keeper and the Kept. The latest book on boas that I've read is Giant Snakes, A Natural History by John C. Murphy and Tom Crutchfield. And so this book just came out last year. It's got a lot of great information that I haven't found in other places. It's not just about boas, it's about all of the giant pythons, anacondas, and boa constrictors. And it has a lot of great natural history information. They go through all the different types of snakes with descriptions of them. And they also talk a lot about the herpetoculture and keeping snakes in captivity. And then it's got this great discussion about Burmese pythons in the Everglades, which has been a very interesting topic to read about as of late. So highly recommended, Giant Snakes, A Natural History by John C. Murphy and Tom Crutchfield. So those are all great products that I've used and have been very happy with. Once again, if you're interested in checking them out, there are some links in the description down below. So of course I thought I'd grab a boa to close out this video, and this is a 2015 holdback Bacalpa Peruvian male. And so I held this guy back because you can see he's got these gorgeous thin saddles and this beautiful golden color. Just a beautiful, beautiful animal. This guy, you can see he's getting this really nice muscular definition, this nice really square body. He's just full of muscle. I can feel how tightly he's squeezing my arm. But just a gorgeous boa. So this guy, most likely I'll probably pair him up next year. He's reaching breeding size, and hope to have some of these beautiful Bacalpa Peruvian boas born next year. So thanks for watching. I hope this video was helpful to you. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Thanks, and enjoy your boas.